I led us into the NBA's in-season tournament. I think you were skeptical at the beginning, and I don't know if your opinion has really changed as we are now down to the Final Four. But your thoughts on what we have seen, other than the courts, which are hard to watch, and what we're going to see in Vegas.
I'm so in on it now. And thank you for calling it skeptical. So that's being very kind.
It's fine.
It was a terrible idea. But I'm so into it now that I even like the courts. Like, I'm like,
No,
yeah,
you
all
don't.
right, yes.
Nobody likes the courts.
No, aesthetically, they're a mess. Okay, fair. But I love the idea. You know what the in-season tournament is like? I don't know if you've ever gone to a hotel in the city you live in. And like, let's say, you and your paramour just go hang out in the hotel.
Right.
Do we know each other? Of course we know each other. Is it the same scene that we always spend time in?
We're creating little scenarios here.
I'm just saying, like, are they the same players that they always are? Yes. But it goes down a little different in the hotel than it does. I'm just saying, that's what the in-season tournament is, man. Like, this is the same characters, the same place, but it's different. And you feel it. Guys care. Guys legitimately do care. Like, that was my whole thing. My whole thing was, if they don't care during the All-Star game and they win, I think they make $1 million if they win that. There's a monetary bonus for that as well. I was like, if they don't care for that, they're definitely not going to care for this. Who cares about different courts and in-season tournaments? No one's hanging a banner for this. I'm wrong. I was wrong. And you felt it in that Suns-Lakers game. Like guys were going to go get after it. There was some chippiness. You had Cam Reddish and Devin Booker getting into it and stuff. Like, these are things that I'm not saying that they don't care for all of the regular season games, but 82 of them, you're going to wane a little bit. They were fantastic. Like, that was fantastic. Tyrese Halliburton, the performance he put on versus the Boston Celtics, like becoming that sort of a household name. They said it was only his second time being on the national stage since getting into the NBA, which there's some issues with the NBA and how they kind of decide who they're going to promote and who they aren't. Right. There are good players that don't play in New York or LA. But like, that's what if you're the NBA, that's precisely what you want. You want Halliburton to become this big time name so that people are looking him up and maybe checking Pacers games all of a sudden. This has worked out beautifully. Shout out to Silver and company for putting this together.
I love the concept. I think it will work in other sports too. Our head coach Rod Brenden is not a fan, but maybe he'll change his tune. I don't know. The NHL is going to do it. I think ultimately Major League Baseball will do it as well. But we'll see. It may take some time. But I hope the NBA community sticks with it. Real final thing on this. LeBron really sold it. LeBron was talking about you're representing your family and your community and all of that. I think he was overselling, but I think that's okay because I think he understands that the NBA wants this to be a thing, and he is willing to help them make it a thing. It will mean more money. It'll be maybe a separate television package. But do you think there's an element of this that some guys like LeBron simply want to win the first one?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, that is because he's been playing against ghosts for a really long time.
Sure.
And so, he would love to, Mike never had an in-season tournament championship. He would love to hit him with that old shrug. Like, Mike ain't have it. You know what I mean? Like, right. Was he eligible for it? That sounds like somebody else's problem to me, fam. He don't have one. Holla at your boy. So, he 100% thinks that. Yes, absolutely.
All right. Now, speaking of Michael Jordan, his old stomping grounds, Chapel Hill. I think they, for the most part, had a pretty good preseason, pre-conference season, even though I think everybody's played a conference game now. But before we get to later in the month where now we're starting to get into league play, I think they've had a very good run-up. What was your take on last night's loss to UConn?
I'm really high on this team.
Mm-hmm. That was my takeaway.
Yeah, like UConn's a good team. Like you're going to lose some of these games early on. But I thought that they fought back. They looked early on in that game like they were kind of withering a little bit. They still have their defensive issues. Look, that's going to be the biggest thing for them. But there's been a lot of, I think, positive takeaways from this. They're a lot deeper than they have been. I know in that final that they had that they ultimately lost with Hubert Davis, I thought that was as big of issue as anything, just not having guys that they feel comfortable playing. And sure, Davis will probably shorten up the bench at some point, but they look really, really comfortable. They got capable shooters. They're athletic. They're deep and kind of amorphous enough to be able to change what they want to do at any given time. Harrison Ingram, man, that is a professional basketball player.
I agree.
Right there. Like, he is no joke. He is at his size and the things he's doing. He's shooting over 30%. It's weird. He actually does remind me a lot of Harrison Barnes, but the inside version. The guy that's not going to rely on the jumper as much, where Grant Ingram feels very comfortable putting his shoulder down, putting it into his defender, and working with his back to the basket. That's not something that I feel guys are as comfortable doing now because there is a lot of more spacing and let's shoot the three, particularly at Ingram's size. But he's legit. You put that with R.J. Davis, who, man, every time I watch him play, he looks like a pro. And not just because of his shooting ability. Although he is a 3-level scorer, I think his layup package is better than it was. He feels very comfortable in the mid-range, and obviously you know what he does from deep. But he knows when they need him, right? He understands, hey, I can get my shot anytime I want to. His quickness and his basketball IQ allow that. But the other thing that the IQ does, it makes sure, hey, let me make sure to feed this big right here who just gave me the pick and he's rolling down. Let's make sure to get him something. Let's move the ball around and get guys in positions to score the ball. That to me is the unknowable part about a point guard. Do you know what you need? They call it a coach on the court for a reason. When we are struggling, yes, you go get it, RJ. You don't look for nobody else. You go get it. But in other times, let everybody else see. He seemed to have a really good understanding of that. And impressed, even though he wasn't great last night, by Baycott's improvement on the free throw line.
Yeah.
I know everybody wanted him to learn how to shoot threes and all this. Man, that's not him.
No.
But what is him is a guy that, because he is so physical and is going to get to the line so much, if he's shooting at about an 80% clip, you no longer have to worry about taking him out at the end of games. And he's going to just get 3 to 4 more points that you don't have to manufacture at all just based off of offensive rebounds and putbacks.
And it's interesting you get that because, at the beginning of the show, to me, Harrison Ingram's their best player. I would, to me, that's the guy that I center my offense around. Everything works off that. I think the emergence of Elliot Cadeau as the primary ball handler, even though they have two, and R.J. Davis does a lot of orchestrating with the offense. I think the fact that they can rely on Cadeau to run the show more often than not, I think is really good. I love him. I love him as a player. He's going to go through a dip, but I think he's really good. You get Cormac Ryan, who's just a really good spot-up shooter, but he does more than that. Not just a shooter. He can drive. He's got some, we'll just say, tenacity to him, right? We can call it whatever we want. If he was playing for another team, we would hate him, but he doesn't. He plays for North Carolina, so we like him, and that's good. But I like the depth, too. To me, Jalen Washington's going to be part of the rotation. Right?
Absolutely.
And Seth Trimble's going to be part of the rotation. I think there'll be an 8-man team pretty much all year. And that's really all you need. You don't need 10. You don't need 11. 8 is more than enough. I think that maybe 7. 8 was the show, right? 8 is enough? Yeah, that was the show. Apologize it's right in my wheelhouse because I'm almost 100 years old. But I like that team. Last night was just a loss. It's a great game. I think UConn played well. They probably shot more. I don't know. I haven't seen UConn enough. They shot a lot of threes. They didn't make a high percentage, but they made 10. Carolina made 7. And I think that they had those 2 stretches in the second half that they stretched the lead out to double digits a couple of times after Carolina had eaten into it. And it was just too big a hill to climb. But I wasn't discouraged by anything I saw from UNC.
No, not at all. That's a good environment for them to play. And they still got I think their next game is versus Kentucky. I think they have another one of these kind of big time showdowns. But I love that. I love the toughness. You mentioned like, hey, he has, let's call it moxie or whatever it was that you came up with. Like, yeah, but I want that. I want them playing with a little bit of edge. If there has been an issue in the past with Carolina, regardless of who the head coach was, it was the nice guy thing. Like, they're a bunch of nice guys. Well, nice guys finish second in basketball. You got to have a little bit of that mean streak in you. And I like to see, let me tell you, the chatty Kathy Spencer for UConn. He had a lot to say.
He certainly did.
That. you need to go up against that in New York. Go up against a UConn, that kind of a story program. Let's put them in some boiling water, and they will cook, and they will be fine. Like, it's going to be great. Like, I'm really high on this team right now.
I am too. But real quick aside, there was some question about whether or not UConn is a blue blood program. Why is I mean, how many national I mean, it's not like they've just started being good. Like when Jim Calhoun got there in 1990 or 89 or whatever it is, they became great. They were one of the best teams in the 90s. It just took them a while to win a national championship. One of the best teams in the 90s. They got 5 national championships. I mean, how do we not call them a blue blood? They're a blue blood. They just haven't necessarily been one of the legends of the game since 1952. I don't even understand people.
Yeah, I think folks don't want to let other people, like especially fans of the teams that everybody knows is in. They're a little bit more reluctant. And in a weird way, I think that the women's basketball team's success has hurt them because it hasn't been as dominant. It's always been they've been the other team on their own campus for a long time. I think that hurts them too.
More of a blue blood than Indiana, and I'll just leave it right there. Yeah, they are. All right, when do you head down to Atlanta for the Celebration Bowl?
Head down there Saturday. Super excited. This is gonna be a big opportunity for our program. They were co-MEAC champions last year, but because of the tiebreakers, couldn't actually represent the MEAC in the Celebration Bowl this year. Get the big wins versus Morgan State and Central late in that season after we lost to South Carolina State in a really tough game where I thought that was the season. They were able to fight back, get into it. They got their biggest test coming next Saturday when they play FAM, because FAM, they score the most points in the SWAC. They allowed the least amount of points. They're 11-1, but their only loss being to South Florida. Like, this is a legitimate team that they are playing. And so it's a really good measuring stick to determine where your program is. So shout out to Coach Scott for rectifying this program, because it was looking really rough for a little while.
That's Brenden Whitted at HU Cosell on Twitter. Good luck to the Bison in the Celebration Bowl. You can read his stuff at bisonexpress.com. All right, my man. I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely, man. Love it.
You got it.